Hi, this is Will from Opportunity China, and this morning I am joined with Maxi Hobbs, who was a teacher that went out to Shenyang in China, all the way back in, would it have been 2014, Max?
Yeah, correct. August 2014.
Max and I were actually out together as teachers for around a year. We had a bit of a crossover with one another. And today I'm chatting with Max, having a good catch up with him, see what he's up to now, and see what his China experience has taught him. So first of all, could you just give us a quick introduction to yourself, let us know a little bit about what you're up to now, as well as a little bit about your time in China, so a bit about the city that you were in, and the school that you were working at.
Yeah, okay, well, so yeah, I moved out to Shenyang in August 2014. Stayed in China for a year at the same school. Thoroughly enjoyed the time out there. It was a great experience. Did learn a lot from it. A lot of life experiences and situations that you just can't replicate, I think, in the UK or probably anywhere in the world, really. It's quite a unique sort of country like that. But thoroughly enjoyed it, enjoyed the culture, learning the language, meeting the children. I still actually get quite a lot of messages off the children now, just little audio messages asking about their English and stuff, and Merry Christmas and Happy Birthday. So that's always quite nice to know that they're still considering you as Teacher Max, which is seems a distant memory now. Moved back in August 2015. And I'm now a website and marketing manager for a horse racing firm, a business that me and my friend actually started up in November, so 3 months after I moved back.
Awesome. That's really interesting. Could you tell us a little bit more about what you're up to now and about how you started that and how that came to be?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, going back further, at university, I graduated from UWE in Bristol with a 2-1 in website design, so that was kind of my skill, I suppose, designing websites and whatnot. A friend of mine, James, who kind of had this business of tipping winners in horse races, we kind of got together when I got back and we discussed, I was at a loose end in terms of looking for a job, so we decided to kind of get together. I would do all the marketing, all the website stuff, manage everything online, and he would manage the business, look after the books.
Taking a look at what you're doing now, which is obviously very different, and to anyone viewing, they might think, well, how can you possibly even correlate experience teaching in China to an entrepreneurial racehorsing startup? Obviously, they're two very sort of separate things, but as both I and you know, there are a lot of skills and a lot of sort of personal attributes that you can pick up both through teaching in China and through living in China. What do you think were the biggest things about yourself? What do you think were the biggest areas of growth, both personally and professionally, that you can attribute to your time in China?
Yeah, it is funny, isn't it? Because you said, I was a website designer, then go to a teacher in China, and then come back and start up a business in the horse racing industry. There is no real correlation, but I think that's the beauty of teaching in China is no matter what you do, there doesn't need to be a correlation because of the skills I think you pick up. And I think for me, I think that just the idea of being patient, open-minded, and open to anything, which you all know full well as well, but you don't know what is going to happen every day in China. The experience of each day is so different, whether that be struggling on the street with a language barrier when you just want to buy a bag of apples, whether that's in school when the kid, you just can't predict what the kids are going to do, to angry or happy parents, or all kinds of things. It teaches you, I think, to be patient, open-minded, and it built my confidence hugely. You will get days, which I think, Will, yourself and I and our groups used to commonly refer to as China days, where everyone would have those days, and you just almost had to write them off, go to bed, and say tomorrow's another day. Today was a difficult day for whatever reason, but the next day will be good and it will be rewarding, and the good times far, far outweigh the bad. And I think going into business now, I'm a very patient person anyway, but I've become even more patient and open-minded to new ideas. So even if here I am pushed out my comfort zone, I accept it.
Couldn't agree more from personal experience as well. I think you're totally right. The level of confidence that you're able to gain when you're out there is absolutely tremendous because, hey, you're going to a country where very often you don't speak the language, first of all. There's a huge amount of help that you have from it. But what it does is it gives you the impetus and the push to really put yourself out there. And if you're in China, you can't afford not to. And that level of confidence that you attain from it really does stand you well. Particularly as I can imagine if you've got an entrepreneurial spirit about you like you do, Max, and it can sort of give you that little extra push to go and network and to go and speak with more and more people and sort of broaden your horizons. So that confidence is important. What do you miss most about China? What are the things that would persuade you to potentially go back and maybe start a business up in China in the future?
Yeah, to be honest, well, I can't say it hasn't crossed my mind on regular occasions. Well, I actually did go back to China. I think I went back August of last year, so a year after I moved home, just because I still had a lot of friends out there and people that you'd be in touch with everyone almost daily, weekly. So I kind of used that to go back to China for a month last year, which was brilliant. And I think first and foremost the food. I'm so anti-Chinese takeaway in England now, it's untrue. Anyone who gets a Chinese, I tell them off and I tell them that this isn't the real food and
No,
stuff like that.
I know what you mean about Chinese food snobbery. It's definitely something that takes a hold of you once you leave.
It does, yeah. And I would refuse really to have a Chinese here now. Maybe every now and again, but it's the food out there is something that you just have to really have it to, I could tell people till I'm blue in the face how good fried dumplings at Da Qinghua are, or the guava or the hot pot at Heidi Lau, all those things.
Yeah.
So the food obviously is fantastic. I think just I like kind of life being a bit of a mystery, I suppose, and the unpredictability of China.
Yeah, and there's never a dull day, is there? There's always something new that's going to pop up for you in many different forms. It's one of the most exciting experiences you can have. Finally, I'd just like to ask what advice you would have for anyone considering taking up a teaching position in China, what you would say to them, any top tips, and also any words of encouragement you might have.
Yeah, okay. I suppose it would go back to some of the earlier questions. Really, I think the first thing you have to be patient and you have to be open-minded. And I think if you've maybe got a bit of a short fuse or you're not willing to be open-minded, I'd probably reconsider going to somewhere like China because it is going to test you. There's no two ways about it. But the tests don't have to be negative; they can be positive. And I think it's something I kind of do every day now. I always try and learn something new every day, and I think in China you almost have to learn from those tough days. How can they not happen again? How can you make it better, etc., etc. And you can't stop the bad days, but you can just go in with a patient and open-minded approach. And I think another thing as well, learn the language and embrace it, because let's put it this way, when I was at school I studied French and German and I dropped them as soon as I could and had no interest in learning them because it wasn't for me. I was kind of more of a mathematical person with numbers and whatnot, and languages didn't interest me, but I was every day constantly fascinated by the language in China. And when you'd see other foreigners talking Chinese to another Chinese person, in my head I was always like, I want to be that good, I want to be like that. And learning the language was so rewarding, and every taxi journey I took, I would sorry, not the signals, the symbols, and just learn them. And it would be so rewarding to learn what those symbols meant, and coming home and showing people that means happy birthday or that means hello, and people are fascinated by it. And it makes your life out in China so much easier if you can just ask for a bag of apples, or if you can ask for a bag or a takeaway or something like that. So I think just be open-minded, be patient, and you don't have to learn the language to a large extent. By all means, if you want to, do so. But even just learning a new word each day will make your life so much easier. And yeah, just go in with it with an open-minded approach, really. I think that's probably would be my main advice.
Excellent. I think that's terrific advice. I think as well, certainly when you get back home, showing off any language skills that you have are pretty handy. Everyone is ridiculously impressed, particularly employers. If you ever go to job interviews and on your CV have experience in China and any language experience, you know, it's so important in this day and age as well to actually have that down. It's something that really stands out and gives you a unique selling point.
Well,
Yeah, I
just
agree. Really.
another thing there, actually, just sorry to interrupt. I went on before the job I've got now. I went on maybe a number of 4 or 5 interviews, and in every single interview, one of the first things they mentioned was about China and about my experience there and how it could work in this potential new job. So it's something that you need to expect to talk about and have positive things to talk about. And you can only turn your experiences to China into a positive, such as learning the language, pushing yourself in different environments, and it's something that employers seem to really be fascinated by. So, you know, it's fantastic for the CV and really good fun to talk about as well.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for joining us today and for answering our questions. I'm sure those who are watching will have found it incredibly useful. And if they have any questions that they'd like to relate to Max as well, you can always email me at will@opportunitychina.co.uk, and I can ask Max any questions if you've got any follow-ups for that as well. And we'll speak again soon. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye now.